Good afternoon, everybody. We have about 38 people on the Zoom this afternoon. And I think we would like to get your input as to a few items which we have sent you, from capacity building to market development. And we have chosen a very prominent moderator, Mr. Kincaid, who loves to do this work. And so I will hand this over to Mr. Kincaid to start the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. I mean, many of you met me a year ago when we had our, I think, a tremendous conference over at the airport at the Redis. So I think you have some idea who I am. But for all of you, welcome to the first of two roundtables to discuss and capture our views, your views, of what needs to be done to further develop Alberta's industrial hemp industry. But before we start, I, as your moderator, need to set down a few guidelines. First, if you're on Zoom, as you are, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And if you want to speak, please raise your hand. And if you are speaking, please be brief. Do not interrupt others, so be respectful. We want to have time to listen to all of you. Otherwise, I may have to cut you off. I'm supposed to smile there. So let's begin. First, we have representation today throughout the industry: farmers and processors, marketers and governors, investors and researchers. We need you all to be in industry. And of course, we need the AHA as a coordinator and champion of the cause for a growing, vibrant, and profitable industry. That's our shared vision. That's our shared mission. That's why we're optimistic. When we talk about the building of the industry together, that should be grounds for optimism. That's why we do it. That's why we collaborate. That's why we are a community. That's why we are one. Next, we'd like you to each introduce yourselves. Now that's 38. It's going to be pretty fast, so please, your name and company, and maybe just in one or two words, what portion of the industry's supply chain you represent. So be brief. Where do we go? Alphabetical? Sure. So whoever is A's, let's get started. Somebody's got to get started. So let's begin. Put their hand up.
I'm used to this in school, the old AA. So Aaron Barr, the CEO of Canadian Rockies Hemp. We're a fiber producer and processor here in Alberta.
Thanks, Aaron. Next.
The other double Aaron in the group, I guess, Aaron Van Beers. I'm with Leduc County Ag Services, just in the municipal government.
Great. Third, next.
That's probably me, Andrew Potter, President CEO of Blue Sky Hemp Ventures, and we are focused on whole plant utilization.
Number 4.
Hi. For the council in a support role for development of industry.
Number 5.
Hi, I'm Angela Lum. I'm with the Department of Agriculture and Irrigation, and just really excited at hearing all the input from stakeholders.
Thanks, Angela. Number 6.
Hi, I'm Avis Gagne. I'm the Chair and CEO of Smoky Hemp Decodification Limited here in the Smoky River region of Alberta.
Thanks. Number 7. Are we into B's yet?
C's, Chris.
Oh, sure. Chris Dambrowitz, actual consulting and also skills for our future.
Thanks, Chris. Number 8.
I'm going to jump in. I'm a B before a C. Paul Pasquale with Alberta Hub, the Regional Economic Development Alliance of Northeast Alberta, and yeah, here to listen to all the input and yeah, moving this hemp industry forward.
Thanks. Number 9.
Barry Mayer, been involved in the development of the hemp industry, probably the first of two of us in Alberta, as far as getting regulation in place where we could have an industry. And I've chased it. Mayer Holdings.
Thank you. Number 10.
I'm going to go. It's Colleen Stein, Alberta Hemp Works, whole crop utilization.
Thank you. Number 11.
If we're talking about C's, Clarence Schwalek, I'm Director of Farm Operations with Fresh Hemp Foods Limited.
Number 12.
I'll jump in. Clint Dobson with Ardor.
Thank you, Cliff. Number 13.
Corey Peebles with the Alberta Hemp Alliance.
Thanks,
Great
Corey.
to be here with you guys.
Number 14. Were the D's or E's?
Probably D's.
Are we in D's?
Sure.
Hi, this is David Saltman. I'm Chairman and CEO of Inca Renewable Technologies. We are a composites manufacturer.
Welcome, David. Number 15.
My name is Darren Boulding. I'm with Natural Products Canada. We've financially supported several hemp companies and also have pitch events, etc., for companies in the space.
For 16.
My name is Darcy Bouvert. I'm an agronomist focused primarily on growing hemp for fiber use.
Thank you. Number 17.
Dan Madeline, Biocomposites Group.
Thanks, Dan. Number 18.
I'm Darren Bonder, President and CEO of Hemp Alta. We're an industrial processor in Calgary.
Number 19.
Daryl?
Daryl?
Yeah. Daryl Mc.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know how this was going about. I didn't know my number was 19. Anyhow, Daryl McAway, Fresh Young Foods. I look after the pedigreed seed production and agronomist for Fresh Young Foods. Thank you.
I'm just counting to get to 38. Number 20.
We're at 49 already. Diane.
Diane.
Hey, I'm Diane Chesson. I'm the Executive Director for Smoky River Regional Economic Development.
Thanks, Diane. Next.
D.
D. More D's or E's?
I think
F's. G's. A George someplace?
I
Harry?
mean, if we're on G's, I'll go. Jeff Backman, Product Coordinator with Agriculture Financial Services Corporation.
K. Anything before J?
Yeah, Greg Krisky. I'm on the board of directors with the Alberta Hemp Alliance.
Thanks, Greg. H.
Hi, I'm Gurbir. I'm a research scientist with Farmix Mutter, and I'm interested in hemp crop production and research.
Next, we got the research covered. Next. H.
No, we're still on G. There was a
G. H.
Greg.
Greg.
Just a, oh, Greg went, sorry, Jeff Backman.
Jeff Backman.
Oh, did I not go? I'm not sure if I came through. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll go again. Jeff Backman, Product Coordinator with AFSC.
You get 2 credits. K. K or L?
There's J's.
J.
Hi, I'm Jim Schroeder from Alta Green Products. I'm the Chief Science Officer, and we manufacture value-added products basically out of the hemp seed strain.
Where are you located?
Edmonton.
Okay, thanks. J. Any more J's?
Yeah, it's Jesse Hahn here with Natural Fiber Technologies. We're a leader in biocomposite product development from natural fibers, also a decortication equipment developer and a fiber processor in Edmonton.
Thanks, Jesse. K.
Good afternoon. Sorry, jumping in here, John Van Trape, Southern Alberta, now my Boile, and primary producer.
Good afternoon. My name is Jan Slasky. I'm an expert researcher. I work with Inotech Alberta, working with hemp for over 20 years. Greetings from Vegreville.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jason Turner. I'm the manager of lending and agri-stability products here at AFSC.
Julie Price.
Price?
Julie Price.
Julie?
Hi there, Julie Price calling from Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation in Edmonton.
Okay. Any other J's?
I'll sneak in here. I'm Joan Miller. I'm with JEDI, which is the Joint Economic Development Initiative. We're in the County of Wetaskiwin region. Just here to learn a little bit more about hemp and hoping to bring some businesses to our region. Thanks very much for holding the event today.
Jeff Craddock, Mayor Devon, and a big fan of Greg Krisky.
Any other J's?
I think that's it.
K's or L's?
Ken Hanford, I'm a senior product coordinator with AFSC.
Okay, good. L's, M's?
Kyle.
Kyle?
Good afternoon. My name's Kyle Dunn from Vancouver, BC. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer for Horizon Eco Planning Group and also the Creative Director for Best Plans Marketing. And I'm proudly wear my hemp clothing as much as I can.
Thanks, Kyle.
Lane,
Lane?
Hi, I am Lane Quickstad. I work in community engagement and economic development for the town of Vegreville.
That's L's, M's.
M?
I'm Martin Exbrand with Quattro Farms in Bow Island. I do the hemp production here, and I'm also a board member of AHA.
Manny Diol, Executive Director, Alberta Hemp Alliance.
Monique.
Monique?
Yeah, sorry, actually, it's Frank Cote, Smoky Hemp Decortication, Director of Quality.
Thank you, Frank. Monique?
That was
That was Monique. And
Marco, sorry, some of the names are weird. Marco?
Markle?
I don't know. Okay.
Keep going.
Mayor Jeff
I
Craddock?
think we did, Jeff.
Jeff, okay. All right, Peas.
Peas.
Paul.
Paul.
Everyone, Paul Bullock. I'm president of Inca Renew Tech. As David mentioned, we're a biocomposites manufacturer, and my main focus is whole plant utilization to get more money into the farmers' pockets to make hemp viable crop. And I'm also a board member of the Alberta Hemp Alliance.
Thanks, Paul. Any other Peas?
Peter Dushop, Forever Green and hempcutter.com. We're out in BC, grower and processor.
Any other Peters?
Could I jump in as an N?
Sure, go ahead.
Norm Boulay, Director of Agricultural Operations with Smoky Hemp Decortication in Don Lay, Alberta.
Jump in.
One more, Pat McCarthy. I've been consulting for agri-food industry.
Okay. Another P?
Another P. Kevin Shawnett, Vice President with Lending for Agriculture Financial Services Corp. So we provide lending and risk management services to our Alberta producers and businesses.
Okay. No more P's? QR?
Robin?
Robin?
Yeah, hey there, Robin Hapsel with the town of Devon. I'm the Economic Development Officer, and we have value-added agriculture on our target industry list. And thanks for having us today. Looking forward to the presentation.
Rod Lanier?
Rod?
Rod.
Rod.
Good afternoon from Lethbridge. It's Rod Lanier, Never Idle Farms, longtime hemp grower, as well as a startup fiber processor and separator.
I like the never idle. I like that. What else we got?
Richie?
Richie?
Hey everyone, my name is Richie Demetriou. I head up VP of Growth for Zing.com. We actually participate in the last mile, mid-mile, warehousing, etc. We're working with clients right now, like with Sundial, Spirit Leaf, Good Buds Co., Canopy Growth, yeah, a whole bunch of stuff, Canna Cabana. Yeah, and that's what we do. We deliver cannabis. So that's one of our verticals, and I'm happy to be on this call and to meet everyone.
Yes.
Steve?
Steve?
I'll pipe in. Russ Crawford, past president of the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance, consultant with Alberta Hemp Alliance, and really delighted to see this cross section here. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Russ. Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon. Steve Upham here, Vice Chair of the Alberta Hemp Alliance. Recovering Reeve from the County St. Paul. I didn't run in the last election, and I've been trying to retire, but people keep on giving me jobs, so I'm keeping quite busy. So happy to be on the call today to be chatting with everybody and trying to advance the future of this great industry.
Thanks, Steve. Any other S's?
Doesn't look like it.
T, how far away is from the finish?
We got about 4 left.
4 left. S.
Terry Bradford, Just Biofiber in Calgary.
Thanks, Terry.
And there's another Terry as well.
Another Terry? Okay, skip Terry.
Trevor?
Trevor?
Caswell?
At the airport?
Yes.
Hi everyone, Trevor Caswell, Edmonton Airport, Manager of Demand Product Development. spend time in the end-to-end supply chain focused on ecosystem development and ag products focused around hemp. So thank you.
And the last but not least, Will.
Will? Will, you there?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, Will Van Roosel, Bow Island, Alberta, longtime seed grower of hemp and hemp for food products as well. And also recently elected to the board of the CHTA.
Is that everybody? Anybody we miss? Going once?
Yeah,
Hi there,
Mark Lottie, UniC General Manager, coming from Ontario. So yeah, glad to be here.
Okay, what was your name again?
Mark Lottie.
Thanks, Mark. Anybody else out there?
Hi, yeah,
hi.
Go ahead. Okay, my name is Autumn Barnes. I work in agriculture extension at Lethbridge College. I'm standing in for Dr. Chandra Singh, the Senior Research Chair in Ag Engineering and Technology. Just here to listen and learn.
Delighted you've joined us. I think there's one more out there.
Yes, I joined a little bit late. My name is Clifton Cross, Frog Lake First Nations. We are in alliance with Logistic Omnicorp, a textile hemp company called Oski Hemp. Brand new to the market, ready and willing to listen in, and really glad to be involved in the call. Thank you.
Well, it was amazing, Clifton, that you were the last presenter or the last commentator, because I think you fit what I'm going to talk about now. As we get into the real meat of the matter, and thank you all for sharing who you are and your name and your background. But I'm going to ask now, are we at the tipping point? And I'm referring to the industry as a whole. Some of the things that I've heard in the last couple of days of getting warmed up for this exercise leads me to believe that we may in fact be at the tipping point. Just one more boost when no one will be left idle. I've heard that there's $1 billion agreement recently signed in Alberta for a manufacturer needing all the industrial hemp fiber Alberta can supply. Should I read that again? Are we ready? If not, what's the problem? What's the big one? What gets us over the hurdle? What makes this tipping point in the past? Are we, or are there other market-making pending opportunities? Who wants to speak first? Well, first, is this $1 billion agreement real? Cross, are you familiar with it? And I don't want to expose anybody to anything they don't want to talk about, but I think you may know something about what I referred to.
Absolutely. I can't go into details about the current build, but right. I will let you in on the contract that we've actually encountered with the federal military. The Canadian military needs their next uniforms for the next 10 years to be done strictly from hemp, and we have secured that contract for the next 10 years to supply Usky hemp military uniforms. The word Usky actually means earth, so now the Cree word earth will be right above the Canadian military, and I think symbolically that's a great step forward in terms of reconciliation and proper management of resources that are renewable and not damaging our environment. So that I can reveal today. Louis, my partner, sadly couldn't make the call, but he asked me to not reveal too much of our efforts going forward, but there are a lot of allies coming on board. And moving forward, I want to include in this discussion, Frog Lake First Nations is actually looking for further partnerships in terms of hemp brick. Terry Radford around the table has kindly included his efforts to combine with ours, and hopefully in the future we can see material development for sustainable homes as well. Hemp is the only way forward in that realm. I believe that protecting our First Nation population from serious overlooking of materials for housing is the step forward that we needed. The growth in our area needs to be supplemented by food industries. So we are actually working with another company on making sure that happens. With that company, we are engaged with the next 2 to 3 years building a sustainable indigenous land base that will actually grow hemp in the tune of around 1 million acres. Now, I know that seems ambitious, but we have no choice in the matter. Hemp and the hemp industry is about to ignite, and we're going to create an ecosystem with First Nations and Métis that can really augment the lack of labor needed, the lack of innovation, that's at our disposals with the polytechs that we've been attached to, the NATE resource, the Innotech resource that we're about to reach out to, and the SATE resource in terms of composite development, in terms of other materials that I can get into later. Thank you for the listening. I hope that answers the question.
Well, this elaborates on the point that I made when I said, are we now into a tipping point? Just one more boost and no one will be idle. So you've emphasized the relevance for construction materials, for fiber, for clothing, and the food products, all of which are quite relevant on the product menu. And then you mentioned the indigenous population and the relevance of this for literally all of Alberta. So let's start with our supply. I'm going to go through 4 different sections and ask for anyone to speak up, which wishes to do so, to raise their hand. And I'm going to try and hit some bullets quite quickly. First, let's start with supply being our hemp growers, the farmers. What are their issues and what do we recommend? Seemed to me when we came out of the conference last year, it was 333 acres in 25 years, because we said, no, by 2025, because we said we need supply. We need 333,000 acres, which is a stretch target by 2025 to demonstrate that this industry is on a roll. So what does it take to get the farmers over the tipping point? What are they looking for? And what are they not getting today? Anybody want to speak up?
If I was to speak up, it's Rod in Lethbridge, never idle.
Thanks, Rod.
It's a case when I speak to my neighbors who would like to put hemp under irrigation, that they have a reliable sale of seed, of the fiber. The fiber would include a processor within a distance that the freight makes sense. But I agree that it is a tipping point for farmers to be able to decide that hemp is a competitive crop to grow for them.
Right. So the key words in there, competitive, mean they've got to get reasonable return on what they've invested, and that they have been uncertain that the product that they would produce would in fact be bought. So we need comfort that there's a real market for their end product.
I guess a bit more detail to the competitive part is it has to keep up with the other crops that I have a choice to.
So that would be an existing farmer. To get existing farmers, we've got to convince them that they're going to get more return than what they're getting for producing canola and other grains today.
Or in the close to it. Doesn't have to be more, just has to be closer to it.
Any other color? Anybody want to dispute that or elaborate?
It's
It's Paul Bullock from Inca.
Sure, Paul.
I think the key component of that is whole plant utilization, where the farmer can receive a dual income stream from the crop in both grain and straw that goes on to further fiber process.
Okay, so that adds additional detail that we're not just talking hemp. We're being a little more specific. That it's the whole plant, the leaf, the stalk, whatever.
Well,
So
I think in its context, it's particularly the grain and then the fiber that's been decorticated by additional processors.
All right, so that adds additional color. Any other color?
In terms of making sure that the farmer's sustainable and economically sound, I would love to introduce the conversation the use of photovoltaics over crops that keep the farmers economically sound.
Okay, you're breaking up. Can someone else elaborate the point that he's making? Because I didn't quite get it with the breakup.
Sorry, I'm going to pull over real quick and just to complete that thought is.
Yep, you're good now, Cliff.
The sustainability of. Okay, great. So the sustainability of farming techniques, I think we should be considering agrivoltaic systems. Agrivoltaics actually can provide the farmer with another revenue stream and better crops. When you place the voltaics over top of the hemp crops, they actually grow longer and more durable leaves. So it's something that I would love to actually pitch. And if anyone wants to partner on it, we're going to do some research on it
so
very
is that
quick.
a research initiative? If case, Barry, do you want to talk to it? Okay, we'll leave it at that then. There is some research that would need to be done to add that as value-added agrivoltaics. Okay, so let's move on to processors, the decorticators, and the researchers themselves, of which I hear that many are idle today, which is startling. Do we have any issues and recommendations that would be of interest and help add to the relevance of our decortication sector and researchers in this industry? We just heard of one area of research. Why are we idle? Why are decorticators sitting out there not being worked on, and researchers sitting in the lab without any work to do?
I'll speak to that one, Perry, because we're not idle. We've been operating our prototypes since 2018, off and on, with plenty of hiccups.
Who are you and what do you operate?
It's Jesse with Natural Fiber Tech. If anybody doesn't or hasn't come to it or met us yet, feel free to reach out and we'll show you what we know. We've been working on a mobile decortication technology since 2018. That was our first prototype. Built a unit in 2019. Built 3 units in 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. And working the bugs out in each unit. And we've got our venture development strategy is one of continuous improvement, and pretty proud to announce that we must have made some waves, because the government of Alberta has just contributed another $500,000 for us to develop.
Wait, Jesse, I don't want to stop. I have to stop there. Well, I've been hearing literally since lunchtime that we have a financing issue, that we can't get money for the small businessman, and you just said, and I heard $1 billion agreement from earlier, and now I'm here for 500,000. That sounds like a lot of cash flowing into the market. What's this 500? Who do you get it from and why?
It was from Initech Alberta to commercialize our next generation unit of our decorticators. So obviously, I think you're right. I think we are at a tipping point. I think there's a lot of support for this industry from all sectors, from government, from entrepreneurs, all the farmers, the people in this room. I think we're real close. I think that. I don't know exactly what the purpose of this roundtable is today. I think I heard that the AHA might be looking for some money from the government to support the industry, and I support that big time. I think that's exactly what we need.
So we got your vote at a tipping point.
But just wanted to say, we're not all idle. We're actually.
I want to ask you one. Why is it that Inotech paid attention to you? What is it that you pitched that convinced?
Honestly, I think that it comes down to my partner Tam Techley's credibility in the industry. He's been at it for years. We've been proving out different products. We've demonstrated the need for decortication and a solution, and I think he brings a lot of credibility to the industry, and that's why the government stepped up.
Okay, well, thank you. It's always nice.
For the record, it's not Inotech Alberta, it's Alberta Innovates, different organizations. So that's for the record. Yeah.
Keep it.
Is that a clarification? Jesse, where was the money from? Inotech or Alberta Innovates?
Well, Alberta Innovates, yeah. Inotech is a branch or division or something like that.
Inotech is the doer, and Alberta Innovates is provides financial support to startup and other organizations.
Thanks for the clarification.
Very well.
This is Darren from Hemp. We're decorticating 5 days a week, full time, and about to expand our capacity ×3. So we're able to sell our products and looking to increase. So we're going full tilt.
Okay, well, I'm not hearing any bad news. This is a good news story around decortication. If we are keeping our decorticators busy, that's an indication that farmers are growing something that needs to be processed. So maybe it's specific to one segment of the menu, but it's still good news.
We've been cleaning up old hemp bales that have been around for 3 to 5 years right across southern Alberta, and we'll be contracting new bales going forward for this growing season.
And I understand that Bruderheim's got a fair stock in hand as well for when they get their efficiency of their machinery up. They ought to be running full bore as well. So decortication doesn't seem to be the issue, which it was a few years ago.
I think, Darren, if I may ask you a question, didn't you have still a supply issue, that kind of bales you're looking for?
No, we've actually been pretty consistent with supply. There's been lots of terrific farmers right through southern Alberta that we've been able to work with and collaborate with the industry. So today we're looking pretty good.
Aaron, that's good news. Glad to hear that. Any further comments from anybody in the research or decortication sector as to issues and or bad news, good news that you want to share? Otherwise, let's cut to the chase. Get to financing. Do we need investors, public and private? What are their issues? What do they recommend? I mean, I'm hearing money flowing from government just now. I haven't seen AFSC money yet. I haven't seen Braintree Financial and others out there and ATB. But there is confidence, obviously, in some sectors. Maybe it hasn't just, the stories haven't been shared with the financiers yet. But in any case, let's get into the discussion on financing. What are their issues and what do we recommend in order to get them onto this tipping point?
Hi, David Saltman from Inca. I can tell you without question that you all are in a very hot sector from a financial point of view, and that the people that we're approaching and making presentations to now on almost a daily basis, and the investment banks who bring that in, they are extremely interested in hemp-based materials, composites, sustainability, circular economy, et cetera. And the real key challenge for each of us as entrepreneurs, or at least those of us who are entrepreneurs, is what's the value proposition? But with the right value proposition right now, money's flowing. And all of us know this has been a very difficult economy. The markets have been in turmoil. Vladimir Putin didn't help us at all, not only on a global scale, but also driving up, prices of grain, et cetera, that could compete with hemp. But that's starting to level out right now, and that major sustainability funds, multi-billion-dollar sustainability funds are open for being approached.
I should have you put a video together on sustainability funds for AHA to make it pitched as we get ready for our wrap up before the session's over. I'll have further discussions with you, David. Jesse, I think you too. Any other comments regarding financing? I mean, that's a good news story and certainly complements the point that I made earlier about the size of the industry globally and maybe the readiness of Canada and Alberta specifically to participate. Anyone else want to make any other comments of why we're facing this resistance? Because what I'm hearing, the tipping point, we're over. Go ahead.
Okay, so two things I think we're looking at today. One is finance for the industry in general, which is perfectly been discussed here.
Yep.
And also the secondary part is, I believe, for the future is the Alberta Hemp Alliance is finance for Alberta Hemp Alliance, and where and how that can be achieved. So it's great news to hear all these fantastic actions or activities happening. So it should actually spin into AHA's success for sustainability as we go on.
Well, let's hope so. Although I think as many has warned me, this is not a pitch today for AHA to get funding. We do these sort of things because it's fun, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, sure. Okay. In any case, we're going to get there. If the industry is growing and we've helped contribute, then I think people will believe and memberships will grow, and we'll have even more meetings with the leaders in industry, both public and private sector.
I'd like to jump in.
Go ahead.
I'd like to jump in. For a First Nation and Métis perspective, we have a great ally in the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities corporate body. When they expanded their mandate to include agriculture, and the first thing
You're breaking up again.
Not one proposal has run across their desk. So, okay, I'm pulling over. Sorry about that. So just to keep in mind, our partners have a unique ability to access Indigenous dollars. So what I wanted to just relay here is Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation are looking at us to actually throw large proposals at them. And what I pitched for them was a $150 million agricultural base that actually involves innovation tech inside of it. So what I mentioned earlier about agrivoltaics, on top of that, we would actually focus on the development of clean tech to augment the program and automated vehicles to address the labor market that's lacking in agriculture. So I just wanted to include that. financing should be including now the indigenous content, because First Nations and Métis are raring to go. Start tapping on your neighbors, my friends, because we're about to unlock the beast.
Okay, would you make sure that you put in an email? I mean, we've got it recorded, so I can always give it to Manny from in that way. But if you could send a little note of encouragement to Manny, so he can bring that to the attention of the industry overall. That's clearly a good news story and reinforces this tipping point theme.
We have a hand. Trevor Caswell.
Trevor, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Just wanted to echo some of Pat's comments around a sustainable crop. We need to ensure that there's a foundation put in place for the crop to succeed with its producers. That means just setting the industry up, much like the barley, wheat, canola industries. Hemp needs that foundational success story put in place as well before we get too excited on all the opportunity. Without having the farmers here and understanding the value that drives for them, they're not going to be much supply for too long if we don't start to expand. And I'd like to echo Clifton, your demand and the excitement around your announcement there is a game changer for the province. Can't wait to hear more about it.
I don't know whether I read this to the group or not, but I just got an email moments ago that CHTA was about to submit their application to have hemp approved for animal feed by the CFIA, plus their levy system to obtain funds from Canadian hemp growers and processors and offshore imports to the recently established Canadian Hemp Promotion and Research Agency. That makes its way through. That's a game changer right there. So that's more good news if this roundtable is simply becoming a good news journey. But finally, let's cut to the chase. There's government. And what it can do as the regulator, which we've just heard that the federal government may be through the lobbying and the work of CHTA is getting on board. But government's also a source of public funding. What are their issues? They're slow to the table, although we did hear that natural fiber technologies has just got a big win. What's government issues? What does it need to help get over the tipping point in our relationship with government to believe that this industry is worth investing in? We have pending elections. This may be the time to get our message forth. Who wants to jump in?
Angela has her hand up.
Angela?
Sorry.
Angela.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry about that. So Perry, thank you very much. I just want to let everyone on the call know that this morning, Minister Horner, Agriculture and Irrigation Minister, announced a new value add agri-processing investment tax credit. This budget will provide a 12% non-refundable tax credit to support expansions and attract new investment. So we're very excited that this tax credit will inspire more growth, and we're part of that tipping point. So hopefully this will ignite.
You may be contributing to the tipping point. This is obviously lubricating the financial incentive available to make the investment in this industry as a value-added contribution. Thank you, Angela. This roundtable is becoming a series of announcements, which is good news. Manny?
Yeah, is anybody has any comments on this tax credit, how it will help the industry?
Angela, do you want to go over that again? No, go ahead.
Sorry, Manny, can you repeat that?
Well, I was just wondering this 12% tax credit, how does it help the processors business?
Sure. So Manny, basically what will happen is that any new investments after today will be eligible for a 12% tax credit, and it will kick in for any expansions as well. So if you're an existing value add processor and you're looking to build a processing plant or triple your production, like I understand that some decorticators are increasing their processing capacity. So any equipment, any capital that you spend will be eligible for that 12% non-refundable tax credit.
Let's go forward. It's not retroactive. When's it kick in?
It kicks in today.
Today. Awesome. But you've got to be investing new money. I mean,
It's got to be new money. Yeah, incremental new money.
New money, and I probably got to reasonable cash flow in my pockets in order for me as an investor or as a farmer or a processor.
Andrew, how does that help you in moving forward with your plan?
Don't want it to be the bad news bearer, but it doesn't really. I guess that's, I think the tax credits sound good, but I think the reality that most of us as young companies face is actually getting capital to build the project. The tax credits are great once you've done it, but they absolutely favor established big industry. So, it's a good tool to have, but it's, I think for startup hemp industry, it doesn't unlock new capital sources, in my opinion. But
yeah,
if I could just add to what Andrew just said, I think there's some very powerful ways the government can play. However, I noticed that there are at least 4 members here from the AFSC, and they have been incredibly supportive in if we can bring in equity, they can bring in debt, but that's very friendly debt. It's patient debt, it's low interest debt, and on these bigger projects, it's important to have a structured project finance, which is not just all equity. But if equity players, the investment communities, the banks can see that the government is willing to backstop those plays in real ways, then that has phenomenal impact on the ability to attract capital. So very important role that they play. In addition to that, people like the BDC also play on the debt and equity side. So it's not that we should be looking at government to fund our businesses. It's that government can play a major role in being value add, in being non-dilutive capital, in being very good for shareholders. And if we start to look at our businesses more like that, I think we're going to have a lot more success than hoping that the governments can come along and fund.
Is there anything that you've just shared with us that's new? Because if it's not, it hasn't been working to date, and I'm not quite sure why.
Well, for in our case, you have to have the equity component, right? So you have to have it. There will be a very large announcement, we think on February 16th on a very large grant, multi-million-dollar grant. I'm not at liberty to announce that, certainly not to this group, but you'll see it on the 16th. And then we are in contact with a number of the organizations. So I'm just reluctant to make announcements today, but it's nice to be among you.
Hey, would you make sure that we get a news release regarding that February 16th announcement? Maybe be present at the time or clapped behind the scenes?
I'm 100% confident that Camille will have materials to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other further comments? I mean, this is obviously a time to get depressed because of what has been happening in the finance field, but we're hearing good news that we are possibly at a tipping point as it relates to AFSC's discussion, the $1 billion agreement. If we've ever had grounds to be depressed, it isn't now. It's now that we need to lift our heads up, open up our eyes, and realize we may be at the point of opportunity we've been waiting for. Any further comments regarding the government's role in here as it relates particularly to financing?
I can jump in here. My name is Kevin Shawn, Vice President of Lending with AFSC. So David, appreciate your comments on that. And just to clarify, AFSC has provided support to the hemp industry in the province, and we're actually quite interested and quite excited about where the industry is going forward. The ability to be able to use whole plant and the sustainability of the industry, I think, is really appealing to the Alberta economy as we move forward. I think as a lender, when we look at these opportunities, if I can share with the group, is that it's really helpful when there's partnerships that are in place both on the supply side and then on the sell side as well. So as an industry, if we're able to coordinate and work together in those avenues, it certainly helps with that structured business plan and reduces the risk of the overall project. Equity is a key component to it as well, but equally as important is what markets you're going to and then how you're going to secure that product coming into the processing facilities.
I'd like further elaboration on that last point of how do you grow your markets? How do you find them? I was hearing earlier today frustrations that the market is not aware of the relevance of hemp. And yet I'm hearing others say their decortications are running full out. So someplace or another, we've got a disconnect between the readiness of the market to accept hemp and the reality of some of the businesses. Anybody want to jump in on how they're approaching marketing of product, or what AHA could be doing in order to help this industry with marketing?
I can't speak, Richie here, for VP Growth from Zing. I can't speak specifically to this industry in the sense of like hemp. But what it does show is that what we're seeing on our side in the logistics technology thing is when it comes to gaining awareness and getting attention, there has to be some digital marketing efforts to help bring those leads and bring that attention to what we're trying to do within the Hemp Alliance. So that's just one thing I want to put on the table there, is like maybe there's some marketing efforts that need to be done on the digital realm, and then also events maybe to actually bring the attention to what is going on in Alberta at a macro level, at a Canadian level.
Okay, that doesn't happen because people get out on the highway with their thumbs out to hitchhike to trade shows. We've got some financing issues in order that we, as the representatives of the industry, can get out there and help you with the trade shows, and also digital marketing, which is clearly contemporary on the way to go. So thank you. Excellent points as it relates to what Manny's hearing and nodding his head. Go ahead, Terry.
Well, as we've seen from the logistics deal, it's a very large industry, textiles.
Yeah.
So what about, we should be addressing the current industries that are using large amounts of fiber, like for example, wood fiber, and Dan can probably speak to this, is hemp is a direct replacement for existing wood fiber.
Sure.
And if you look at export markets, Europe has an issue with getting wood materials, especially now with the Russia deal. So what can we be doing to address those markets directly? So what's our hemp decortication? It's all about sales. If you give me a purchase order, I can get a loan from AFSC based on that purchase order commitment. So it's all about those sales. We need larger orders and larger commitments. I think Dan can attest to that. Andrew, anybody doing processing, we have to see larger amounts of sales. And again, just like the growers, we need to see committed orders on a repetitive basis every month for those orders, not just a one-time order. So what we should be focusing on is increasing those sales to those markets and like identifying the markets and then using direct marketing to approach those customers to sign up contracts.
Yeah, it's Paul from Inca here. I think I'll jump in on that as well. Is there's sort of two markets I think everyone's got in their head. One is the niche market, which the hemp industry has been servicing for years, if not decades. And then the second is the large industrial market. And where that poses a challenge is it's not so much digital marketing to attract the customer, it's building a production facility big enough to satisfy industrial purchase orders. So, for example, when someone goes to the military and wants to produce uniforms, or we're going to Toyota for a panel product, or Aaron from Canadian Rockies is pursuing some of his end customers, the equity component of that facility is tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And while AFSC is very helpful with the debt component, I think a lot of people don't quite understand the amount of money that is required as a processor to be able to enter an industrial market.
Paul, are you just Richie here from Zing, just out of curiosity, just as I try to wrap my head around this call and what we're chatting about, does the industry need warehousing and help with like freight forwarding and fulfillment, or like how do you get to market? So when you have the hemp, if someone's ordering rope, or if you have these uniforms that are into play, how are you getting to market?
No, this is just standard industrial for the most part, just in time. Anyone that we're supplying has got their logistics down to a science. Trucks are coming in by the hour, on the hour, every day. Nothing on the logistics side so much needs to be reinvented. It's just, I think everyone needs to understand for this tipping point to occur, there needs to be enough awareness to create the equity to come into the industry to spend 20, 30, 50, $100 million to build a processing plant that can start to supplement hemp-based products into the automotive industry, into the building industry, into some of these large remediation projects.
Thank you, Paul. I think that's a very important distinction between the equity or the large industrial markets and the niche markets. And we may well be testing that with this $1 billion agreement that is calling for the amount of industrial hemp fiber that is going to be required for manufacturing these uniforms. They're going to test the logistics in that project for sure. Any other further comments?
Yeah, Daryl McElroy here. I've been involved with hemp since I was one of the first growers to ever grow it. I've been involved with it ever since. Back in, and this is a long time ago, but there was one market in the States, and it was with recyclable cardboard boxes, just to give you the magnitude, I guess, of the acreage that is going to be needed for some of these projects. And yeah, when you talk about 1 million acres, Clifton, yeah, you're bang on. I was down in talking to a recyclable cardboard paper, and we did some trials, and he thought the product was just wonderful. And then he asked how much stock can I possibly get, because that's all they needed was the stock. They didn't need to be decorticated. They pulped it, they put it all in the bale in basically a big blender, and I thought it was wonderful. And actually we had come off, that was the first year of our big glut, I guess, and that was in 2000 and around 2000. And I was kind of cocky because we had produced around 60,000 acres across Western Canada that year. And I said, well, how much do you need? And he says, well, I go through 300,000 ton a month. So we had, out of that 65,000 acres, roughly 3 ton an acre of stock. He had enough for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the market's there. And I don't get, you talk, I heard a little bit about Toyota, there's Winnebago. We've been, like I say, we've been involved with, I work with Fresh Hemp Foods, and we've been approached by a number of companies, both Canada and the US, as to how they can partner up with our growers to contract. We'd contract for the grain, they'd contract for the fiber. And there's a lot of market out there, just saying.
Yeah, I think I've heard the same. And the question was why that market is having difficulty coming to Alberta because of our scaling. So what do we need to do if we've got a lot out there, but it's all in pieces, and we haven't up to this point attracted industrial level scale? What do we do to scale up? Is this through mergers and acquisitions? Is it bringing in very large capital? What, Terry, do you have? What comes to your mind, Terry?
Well, I thought we were a big user until I found out these other numbers.
Right.
And we're really a small user.
Yes, we are. We are small users.
Yes.
We're not sitting in New York, or we're not sitting in Omaha or Seattle.
So this reminds me of a LPAC for Alberta Forestry to create a large enough facility to be able to get to scale.
Right.
But that doesn't work for hemp. Same idea. You're not going to get 1 million acres in one area.
Right.
So what you have to do is have multiple facilities, but they should be kind of a coordinated.
Well, isn't that the point that I know Bruderheim has been spending a lot of time and pulling a lot of pieces together so they all work as one. It requires orchestra leaders.
So we should be selling on the basis of collectively in Alberta, we can process, let's say, 100 tons an hour.
Yeah.
That might be able to satisfy some of the contracts.
But it's been premature to do that. It's either chicken and egg.
But the other thing is, not everybody needs the same hemp that's processed. Textiles is very different from automotive fibers.
So we're getting sophisticated.
Well, no, it's the market. Like you have to address the market and give them a product that's ready to process.
So my point being that hemp is not just hemp. Hemp has many different components. So there are many different markets. We've got to be pretty sophisticated in our marketing to be able to touch which market we're referring to, what type of hemp we're bringing to them, and how we're even decorticating. So
that's absolutely a critical piece of this, you guys. Actually, in advanced composites, you need textile grade fiber. Right. You can't have 94% clean fiber. You got to have 99.2% clean fiber. In injection plastics, you need hemp fiber that's 4 to 7 millimeters in length and with a 15:1 aspect ratio. I mean, so a lot of what drives this business now, and I have to apologize because I have to step out in a minute for an investor call, but a lot of what drives this business is the R&D at scale to get these customers lined up so that when you do build that facility, it's got a happy home in various forms. And it can take lots of forms. Hemp is incredibly versatile as a resource, but you got to have that R&D lined up. You got to have those customers lined up. And then it's much easier to span that gap, that valley of death. If you build it, they will come. It sounds great in the field of dreams, but that's a field of dreams. You gotta have all that early work done. Listen, thank you all very much. I'm sorry I have to beg off. Great conference.
Well, you've made a very good point. The versatility is the varieties. And if we're getting to the industrial level, those big contracts call for a certain special feature. We've got to understand that. And that's a level of sophistication that the industry to this date really hasn't been exposed to.
So what resources do we have to do that? We've got the Jan Slasky, we've got the guys at U of A. Like, what services are available from the government and universities to be able to address those concerns?
Well, I think those questions need to be posed to Laura Kilcrease over at Alberta Innovates and to Innotech about what form of research we need as we move forward. And I know Barry has ideas as it relates to the food processing, because it's not that different over in that regard of what research we need regarding our food utilization.
So for example, you can get a purchase order from General Foods to for a hemp for a cereal,
sure,
for example, and they want 1 million tons of it.
Right.
Well, what are their specifications, and what a food processor like a farmer and a grower is not going to be able to have the resources to be able to do all that research to get to scale. That's kind of where we need the help in the industry now, it looks like.
I think we have also, we're working with ARDAR to have a coordinated research in Alberta, food and fiber. So I think that will be great help for the research part.
Excellent. That's a terrific way to close that conversation off. If we've got a target to have the discussions, and I see the heads nodding in the right direction, that's terrific. Okay, I'm going to change the tune because we're getting near wrap-up time, and I really want to respect that you've all got other things on your plate. I want to get into I want to wrap up with one question back to you, however. Are there any partners who we have left out or who need to be reassured that are not here today? I've heard the Indigenous. I think that point's been made. Will you have an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't rush.
I'm so far ahead of you. I just, quit when you're ahead. I just wanted to walk out. Okay, well, let's entertain this question though right now. Are there any partners who've been left out of this discussion who need to be reassured that are not here today? I heard the Indigenous, so I think we've touched that. Are there large industrial players that should be sitting at the table? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, this is not in the commercial side so much, but somebody that I would have liked to have seen is Health Canada, some participation, because when it comes right down to a lot of the challenges and issues that I've ended up having to work with have come from regulations, which came up early in this conversation. So Health Canada and even Alberta Health, because if Alberta Health could be an ally with us, maybe minister to minister, there might be some push that we can help the CHTA and other people in the hemp world to get to, because that's the crux of a lot of our reason, to answer your earlier question. That's been the reason why.
So the various ministers that I hear that we're intent on visiting, I haven't heard a minister in the health arena or a deputy or an assistant minister deputy. So that's certainly evaluated comment. Thank you. Any other partners out there that we think are relevant, whether it be in the field of logistics, financing, Alberta Treasury, who, not just government, but are there any in industry that are sitting right on the edge of this?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jim Schroeder from Alta Green Products, and we manufacture downstream products from the seed source. So we take products from the blue skies of this world, the oils, the cakes, the meals, and we produce products for humans and animals. One of the biggest issues that we have is consumer awareness. There is so little consumer awareness on what hemp is, and that the major confusion that we have is that anytime that we talk hemp, it's always related to the marijuana side of it. And so we run into all kinds of different types of regulatory issues with that. But the biggest thing is consumer awareness. And when we're looking at manufacturing the plant-based protein products, and that this is a very, very big issue when we're trying to put these products into a marketplace where people have absolutely no awareness or no knowledge whatsoever on what that product is, or even how it's manufactured. So we're up against it all the time, but we're also up against it real big when it comes to investors. Investors have that same issue. The first thing that you tell them when you're in the hemp industry, and some of the major banks in that right here in Canada, that we all talk the talk, but in actual fact, they're not very interested in it, just from the standpoint of view of anything to do with food or anything to do with topicals. They look at it as a CBD or a THC component, and we fight the fight every day.
Excellent point. I mean, small businesses with businesses at large are going to have their own marketing materials, but if you're going to build industry awareness, you've really got to have a player. Allocating that role and delegating it to government alone is not enough. And that seems to me to be a role that AHA maybe today isn't ready to or prepared to. But if AHA were to get the grant that I have in mind, that would be a major part of its undertaking, is the development of market awareness.
Jim, can you share your frustrations with the group, like you're saying, consumer awareness? How and who will do that?
Well, this is one of the biggest issues, is that when we go into a marketplace, and again, Manny, and you've talked many times about the plant-based dog food market. Well, the plant-based dog food market being manufactured in Alberta, we are up against all of the majors of this world, including the Champion Pet Foods, who are now an American company. But the resource dollars that they have for market awareness is unbelievable, and we can't tap into any of that when we're trying to gain market share at a distributor level. And we've got distributors all across Canada that are saying exactly the same thing, including distributors that we've got targeted now in the US, and they want to know how much money are we going to spend to be able to displace the shelves that are already full with standard animal-based dog foods and out over there, and we can't get the dollar value, and we can't get the capex cost to cover all of that stuff. So you have to look at all kinds of very ingenious sources of fund in order to be able to do that marketing, and marketing dollars is extremely expensive when you're trying to introduce new product and displace other products that are already on the shelf.
Okay, is there a point? I see a couple of other hands up there. Is there another point that someone wants to make?
Can I talk?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, it's Dan here. So we've had a few categories, and we bounced around the customer issue, but in order to get to the customer issue, normally you need to go a little bit beyond decortication, which I call value added. And so we haven't talked about that side of it yet. So we've talked about decortication and the issues with that, and but the value added side is where you're going to create the most jobs and the most wealth, and decorticators that likely will not have a customer if we don't do the value added side. And I just listened to Jim there on getting new customer awareness for if you're on the value added side. And so and I don't know who knows our company, but we do decortication and value added side. So we produce consumer packaged goods from the straw. So that whole value chain becomes really, the marketing side of it becomes really important. And there's two markets that I see, two different categories that we're exposed to. And one is displacing what's already there, and that's European. So if you're a decorticator, you're displacing European herd. And, you know, when Terry and I planned several years ago to work together with him on the herd side, I mean, we were talking $300 or $400 a ton for herd, and now, you know, people are selling it for $2,000 a ton. So and what drives that is strictly freight from Europe. So that's really you know, supporting the decortication side right now. But the fiber side is a whole nother world where you've heard David Saltman talk about, you know, certain fiber quality. Well, in Europe, they figured that out, and you can buy your fiber quality however you want. We cannot do that here. If anybody has non-woven grade fiber for sale, I'd sure like to know about it, because I cannot buy it in North America. IND Hemp in Montana is coming up, and they're okay on the quality side, but the only place I can get non-woven grade fiber for my business is with our own decorticator. So that's the other market. And so that whole fiber side, to be able, you know, when what you find out as you get into that is you cannot produce the grade that David's talking about and I'm talking about and what Europeans produce unless you're directly linked in with farming practices. And we haven't learned that yet. And so, you know, we know we need to do it, but we haven't learned the connection. And that's where all the research comes in. And we've talked about that. But that whole value chain and the connection to the value added, which is a customer of the decortication, is the most important thing. And what you're going to find over time is even the herd market, which is ridiculous right now, you will not compete in that unless you can displace the European quality, which I'm not sure we've, you know, some people have figured that out, but not everybody. So my whole point is there's this market that's called displacing Europeans, which we can do right now because of the freight rates and get our foot in the door. And then there's this other one called let's build RVs and let's produce automotive panels. We've produced automotive panels for Toyota. Not a big deal if you got the right fiber quality, but we're not going to touch it because I can't find fiber in North America. And so those are some issues we have to deal with. And so how do we connect the final customer and the value added to the decort and the farmer? So I just want to put a plug in for the value added side because I haven't heard mention of that here.
Is that an educational issue or is it a research issue? How do we resolve that?
Well, it's both because one, it's the educational issue is marketing. So it's marketing 101. Do you know what your customer wants and needs, and do they know what they want and need? Because they've never heard of hemp except to smoke it. So it's a big, expensive outing out there, but it's a huge opportunity because you know I heard, you know, I'm a forestry guy, and wood fiber is in my blood, but wood fiber is so inferior to hemp fiber for most products that, you know, why bother? We don't want to compete with those guys. It's, you know, they're so low cost and so commoditized. We have way better opportunities in competing with wood fiber. But the education of those customers, i.e. the marketing side, which we've heard about, that needs to be done. And right now, the only people doing that are those people that are trying to develop the markets and develop the value added customers, because I don't see any support for that in government. And so, but until we have that, we don't have a pull. We don't have a pull for which variety of hemp we're growing and what spacing and how we're harvesting that and how we're treating it. So until we have that other part, you know, it's backwards. And so that's the educational part. And what was the other part? The other question?
Well, I think you got the two. We got the research covered. Now
yeah, the research there. I mean, when we understand what to research, but we haven't researched the markets. So I think the rest is okay, but we haven't researched the markets.
I mean, I'm hearing it over and over again. We can supply the market. but we've got to know which markets we're supplying. And there are numerous markets out there. There are some that require a level of capacity in the large industrial, and even on the niche side, we still need to know what the market pull looks like. Do we have a really good handle on the markets that we're serving? I'm afraid we don't.
Yeah, and make no mistake, Alberta has more, we grow more than anybody else, and we're larger than any other jurisdiction in North America. And we're leaders, but we're peanuts. I mean, we're qualified as a supplier of Toyota hemp interior door panels.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a qualified supplier, and that's not easy. But they don't really like to do business with us because we don't have 5 decorticators and 5 non-woven lines to ensure that if somebody has a crop failure over there, we can supply that market. So we're not there, but we're the largest in North America. So I mean, I think we'll go there eventually, but you know, somehow we need a plan on, you know, what are we going to do the next 2 years?
Okay, marketing, research, we've got to continue to grow our decortication capacity, and we've got to think big, which is the industrial hemp market.
But yeah, and don't forget my initial comment is the value added, because without value added, you know, the decorticated products are just going to go to some of your international market.
That was my point on marketing. Was
okay.
The importance of getting sophisticated.
Yeah,
we're targeting, and AHA may have to make some tough decisions as to what area and what particular products it really wants to help educate the market about.
Well,
Chris has it.
Go ahead.
You might educate people for next year, and you might have a plan to educate some different group of customers 3 years from now. Anyway, I'll let somebody else talk. Thanks.
Chris had his next.
Go ahead, Chris.
Sure. So Perry, just going back to your initial question, it probably follows down the path of the industrial side of this. Looking at where the emphasis on the European side, and increasingly with the Biden IRA Act having passed recently, to everybody's surprise, I think, including his, looking at where hemp as an industrial crop, where you focus on value add and all the different offtakes, including fractions and fiber, then look at its ability to pull carbon out and to embody that carbon in materials, whether it's the textiles, and that's a hugely exciting piece of news around the new military contract, which has the ability to scale dramatically. That's actually an interesting path towards construction materials, for which there's going to be all sorts of incentives, I think, coming. We may even see some in the next federal budget. But looking at what I'm sure lots of folks around know, the acronym BECCS, or essentially bioenergy and biomaterials headed to carbon capture. I'm not saying that we are looking at being able to compete with oil sands level of stash it under the ground capability. It's taking a look at what is the capture content per acre or hectare to draw carbon out, embody that in a material, and or to collect that. And again, the UK, if anybody's been paying attention to the pellet plants around Alberta and BC, coming close to 50% of those pellet plants are heavily servicing Drax in the UK, which is an old coal plant that there actually are putting traditional, let's call it, carbon capture on. The ability to focus on hemp's capability to capture and embody carbon, translate that into relatively high value materials, and then look at energy content in aggregate in a region might be something that, to Dan's point, isn't something that's going to change things in the next year. But as the path towards industrial hemp production comes up, it may be more and more not only a source of incentives on the farm and production level, but more and more at the level of the folks who are actually establishing the supply with the production facilities. Thanks. I'd love to get anybody who push back on that if that's a nutty idea.
No, we need to get Innotech and Alberta Innovates woken up to the fact that there's a huge opportunity that may ultimately lead to carbon credits. Am I right?
Yeah, I would say that that's right. Potentially carbon offsets, and we've certainly seen in the last couple of weeks that the carbon offset market is deeply flawed. Turns out 90% of the forests didn't exist. That's actually, in a perverse way, it's good news, because now is a better time, as there's an increased focus on getting this right and having those offsets in some way connect to how many carbon atoms are actually being taken out of atmospheric circulation. That's something where certainly the argument and gaining the attention, not just of the politicians, particularly the ones out of Ottawa, but I think that where David was previously talking, that the level of large financial interest in investing in those pathways is growing in the US. It'll show up here, and it's much further ahead already in the European, partly because they need to generate energy out of absolutely anything they've got, and anything they can do to indicate that that energy is not contributing further to carbon emissions is better. And but just to be really clear, in no way am I advocating that you burn the plant. Is you take the high value components out of it, you look at where those paths actually contribute to sequestering the carbon in a material, in a long-term way. And then on the remaining, waste streams, you look at where there's a large enough geographical aggregation that it can actually be used in a burner or a boiler and be able to capture some of the carbon that way too.
So an example of that is what we do with hempcrete.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the analogies is actually to look at what the pellet guys have done over the last 10 years in terms of shifting and realizing how their market is there.
Okay.
Avis?
Before we do, is this, however, a subject that we should simply be tossing off to the Canadian or Canadian partner and let them deal with this at a national level? Or is this something so unique or so specific to Alberta's issue? It sounds to me this is more of the opportunity for a national initiative through the Canadian Association.
I think it's a both end, but I think that there's partly because of the unique capabilities of mixing fiber components, of mixing that bioenergy component, and the knowledge base around CCS in general, and the looking at the offset structures. I think there's something where Alberta, Saskatchewan, and increasingly, especially if there's a deeper level of interest on First Nations and Métis communities, to look at where this might be net new acreage brought to bear, then all of a sudden you've got a real step change in what you can think about it as a supply. It's not a zero-sum game on acreage usage.
Okay, another comment here?
We have a couple. Avis?
Go ahead. David?
Avis.
Yeah,
David.
hi. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things. One from Dan, just speaking to the quality of fiber and how it starts with the producer. And also along the same vein, who should be here. Smoky Hemp has an agronomist that works with our farmers. I think that's key. Like Dan said, it begins in the field, that quality begins in the field. There are quite a number, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the applied agricultural research associations in this province. We're very lucky here. We have one located right next door to us, so we work closely with them. They've done a lot of research into hemp varieties and the agronomy and work with farmers. So I just wanted to add those two things. If we could maybe attract a couple of representatives from those applied research associations to have some input here, and also the agronomic support to the producers. This is a brand new crop for everybody that's growing for us. Even though it's an old crop, it's a new crop, and the varieties are all new, and they certainly avail themselves of that support that we provide. So just wanted to add those two things. Thanks.
Thank you for the addition.
Aaron Barr?
Aaron, back again? Nice to see you back.
Yeah, thanks. Just got back to the room here. Sorry, just been listening in for the last little while. A lot of things to touch on. Dan had some really good points. There's the key parts to this supply chain are primary production on the farm, primary processing, decortication, and then value add processing. All three of those desperately need to be aligned as far as spec, output, consistency. If those three aren't aligned together, then this industry doesn't work. And so doing, a couple thousand acres of cultivation versus 10,000 acres versus 100,000 versus 1 million is significant scale up. And that definitely starts obviously with agronomy, with varieties, with the producers. But next is then the harvesting power. Like we've gone around the world looking at double cut John Deere combines, went to the Case New Holland plant in Pennsylvania. Even just baling in itself, like you'll get 2,000-3,000 acres out of a baler. If we're talking 1 million acres, that's 500 balers in this province. There's probably not 500 balers in Western Canada right now. So we desperately need ag equipment manufacturers to step up to the plate here. You're not, if we want to do 1 million acres, nobody's going to go out there and buy that John Deere double cut combine for $1 million and do 3,000 acres and buy a couple hundred of them. We need some serious scale up in our harvesting powers, plus our decortication has to align that feedstock. A lot of the decortication systems out of Europe are meant for very retted material, and that is not what we're generally able to produce here. So there's a mismatch in what we're able to produce versus what we're able to decorticate, and then getting into the manufacturing and what the consumers really want. And so I think that's what we really need to focus on, is that scale up. Like, yeah, we grow 20-30,000 acres in this province as a whole right now, done by 50 to 100 different producers. To go to that next level is going to require a significant team effort from everyone, from producers to manufacturers to the equipment suppliers. And that's no easy feat. To do a 1 ton an hour decorticator is not that tough, but nobody's going to make money doing that. To go to a line that does 4 to 5 tons an hour and multiple lines, and then feeding those lines consistently year after year, that's the hard part of this industry. And I think, there's a lot of aspirations out there, and that's what keeps us all going. But we desperately need to be aligned and be realistic with what comes with 1 million acres and what that all entails. That's just my 2 cents.
I'll take it for more than 2 cents. Thank you.
And last but not least, Bobby.
Bobby, you're up.
Thank you. I'm sorry I came in late, and you may have addressed some of this earlier. The thing that really has caught my attention over the last couple of years is the fact that when you're processing stock for herd and bast, it becomes critically important to be able to balance out the market that you have for both of your products in the proportion that they actually are created. When you've got 50% of the herd and you've got 20 to 25% of the bast, if you're not selling them in that same proportion, you wake up one day and you realize that you're sitting on a huge amount of inventory and you start to get buried in it. The reason I bring that up is because Dan was saying earlier about, looking at replacing some of the wood with herd. And the thing that concerns me there is strictly price. When you look at the cost of buying the stock, and then you have the cost of decortication and the additional handling, the thing that concerns me is that herd is essentially a good replacement for the wood fiber, except for the price. Their characteristics are very similar. And then you're left with this issue of how do you move your herd in a market where the waste wood can come and disrupt your opportunity at any point. Now, out of all that, what I see is the real need for the value-added focus. Because that's really the only way, only by controlling your output with the markets that you can create, will you have the stability of being able to operate large-scale facilities or multiple facilities in the market so that you have that type of balance between the markets. Without it, you're going to end up where for various reasons, some producers might have to stop producing simply because they don't have the storage space. along with the additional storage space, is the fire risk that comes up with being forced to handle or to store too much of your output. So I'm not addressing this with any particular solution in mind, just saying that I think that it's a contextual problem, that we do have realities where we have to compete the wood with the herd and other natural fibers that in fact can come into the marketplace. And then without having some level of integration to the value added, I think that it leaves the decorticators very exposed to various risks. That's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you. That's certainly a paragraph we need to add to this argument, that there is a risk. And in order to scale up, as we're talking about, every time you're scaling, you're also creating some additional risk in order to fulfill a new opportunity. That's got to be anticipated. Excellent. Thank you, Bobby. That was very helpful. I don't think we're in any way wanting to push away negatives. We definitely, if we're going to have a balanced perspective, need to talk about both sides of the equation as we move forward. So there's grounds for optimism on every front if we're honest to ourselves about what are real opportunities and what are the associated risks with it. Manny, I don't mind wrapping up early. This has been terrific. There's no reason why we have to fill time just because we have it available. Time is a very precious commodity. So I'm going to ask for one more round of input, and then I'll do a quick summary of what I think we've heard. Anybody else out there with their hand up?
But I can ask if I
Go ahead,
may
Manny.
ask. I'm just wondering that I think Innotech has a lot of a lot of new products ready to be launched, but can't find any investors. So we haven't commercialized any plants like concrete block or good building materials to get the market awareness. Is there any solution to that? How to get those products to market? I mean, Terry's here with hemp for a long time, or just biofiber. What do we need to do to get into the market?
Well, it's all about production for us. Like, we've got more than enough market for 5 plants in Canada, but we have a hard time convincing investors to spend $100 million to do it.
So we can't get any investors to get these products to market.
Well, it's the valley of death between developing the product and scaling up to commercial scale. This is where everybody has the problem. I think everybody on this conference.
Scale up finance.
Correct. It has the same issues. Like, Dan has got markets with Toyota, for Christ's sake. So for him to get to that market, he's going to have to spend a considerable amount of money to be able to scale up to address that one customer.
So is that holding up so far?
Ask Dan.
Well, I think that, I mean, if there's any bottom line conclusion today, we've talked about a lot of details regarding marketing and education. But when we get into finance, if we're going to move into the industrial level of finance, it's got to be big capital. This is not incidental capital. It's not me, a private investor, getting into the game, although I might do that. We're talking about the need for tens of millions of dollars in order to scale up to feed industries of what they're requiring. Like this $1 billion initiative, someone obviously had financing to look at the building of the plant in order to serve that military contract. But
It's all about,
we're back to financing.
yeah, but again, it's about risk. So ask your friends from AFSC about their risk profile. They won't invest and provide a loan unless you've got positive cash flow or enough assets to back the loan. It's very simple.
Well, we're talking about industrial level financing. And if AFC is prepared to get involved in industrial level financing, they have to be in the tens of millions of dollars of investment and have the risk associated with it mitigated in some manner.
Correct. And that's where I think we can work on, is mitigating the risk by having proper engineering and research to back up the scaling to industrial.
And we've got to probably make some target decisions, that we can't be everything to everybody in this market. Although hemp has so much versatility, which is a real advantage, this is not helpful to an industry to simply say, we've got a versatile product. We've got to decide what are some of the markets we really want to be in.
Focus on the markets.
Right.
And what it's going to take to address that market.
And that's where AHA must understand, it can't be everybody's friend. There are going to be some components of the market we'll see that it's not working on behalf of everybody. that it is recognizing that to be in industry, which is what we're thirsting for, we're going to have to make some target decisions. Very helpful. Any other comments before I do an attempt at a
Yes.
wrap up and insult everybody?
We have one from Russ.
Go ahead, Russ.
Thanks. You know, we've hit on a lot of important points today. We've talked about what are the barriers to the hemp industry. We've talked about government regulation, and we've talked about scaling and that sort of thing. The one area that I'd like to address and not overlook today is the fact that I'll go back to what Rod Lanier said earlier, is that farmers need to make money doing this. And right now, one of the challenges, not only with the farmer making money, but also the processor making money, is the efficiencies of the plant itself and the genetics that we're working with. And when we did a study with the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance on friction points in the industry, government regulation was number one, but plant consistency, plant quality was number two. And so I'd like to just draw at everyone's attention that the AHA has proposed a research program with ARDAR, which would be a long-term development of varieties, and we'll need input on that. But I think it's an important component to add to this discussion that we develop genetics and we develop ones that work well here in Alberta for particular uses. And that can be both certainly in the feed or the fiber side of things. But I see that as an important role for AHA. This is something that no one, company or individual wants to take on. And the CHJ is doing national research, but our focus is more on what's happening here in Alberta. So I want to just throw that out there. If anyone has any comments on how they feel about that and the importance of that. We've got some ARDAR on the call here, so I just wanted to pump that a little bit and talk about that project and the long-term benefits of that for the hemp industry here in Alberta.
Go ahead, ARDAR, you wish to add, elaborate?
Or anyone, not just ARDAR. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Clinton, but anybody.
Look, I don't mind putting him on the spot. Let's start with you.
Yeah, no, I think it's good points, Russ. And, there are other opportunities and too that we're prepared to collaborate and connect with national funding organizations and other pots of money across through nationally that Alberta should be tapping into. So look forward to reviewing that proposal that we do have in front of us.
And I'll just comment as well. We just submitted our final proposal for our last year's ARDAR project, which was hemp fiber varieties. We have, in the end, maybe you can quote me on this, 60 plus different varieties, cultivars on the LOAC in Canada now registered. So there is an abundance of varieties available, but it's, seed multiplication, matching the purpose of the production, whether it's fiber or grain or cannabinoids or multi-purpose. And obviously with your development of Silesia over the last kind of decade and now Uniseeds multiplying that seed, we were finally able to get our hands on that cultivar this year and had some really good results with it. And now looking to how do we expand that seed production so we can grow more fiber of that variety. And same thing with the Ukrainian variety, some really good results coming out of those trials. And now we need to continue on to furthering those developments and expansions. And I don't think the varieties are really holding the industry back right now. That now we're talking about efficiencies long term, which obviously are vital to the bottom dollar. Want to continue to have more returns to the farmer, more value to the processors. It helps everyone along the chain. I don't think that's what's holding the industry back right now, but it's still going to be important in the long term to definitely progress forward. But again, thank you, ARDAR. It's, your support last year was key, and I hope that continues.
I come from a research world, and I left it many years ago because I got frustrated by its lack of application. It's all well and good to be able to grow a whole bunch of varieties and prove that we're great researchers, but I'm not sure that helps build an industry by saying we can be all things to all people. I want to know what things we can do that generate huge amounts of profits. So can you prove that there are a couple of varieties rather than all varieties that are going to be really important to Alberta? Do you know which varieties are the right ones for Alberta to become billion-dollar industry?
Yeah, we've grown probably 40 different varieties over the last 5 years.
How
I
does
wouldn't say that there's
you tell me what two are going to be the best?
that doesn't exist. There aren't just two there.
But I don't want 40.
Yeah, but that's the good thing is there aren't just the best. That doesn't exist out there. It's like what weed strain is the best? There's thousands of them. There isn't one that's the best.
And I'll echo Aaron there too. And every year is different. One variety could work really good one year. You're better to spread a few varieties over your acres and find the one that fits the market for that year.
The market,
Yeah.
maturity. Jeff Koscheck here with Verve Seeds. That's a very difficult question too. We have probably 16 varieties in the LOAC. We're looking at dumping some. So whether it's for the food market or for fiber market, you talk to one fiber processor, all they want is biomass, biomass, biomass. You talk to another guy in the fiber market, he wants some certain fibrilane. Talk to another guy. So, I mean, if the industry can come together and say, okay, this is exactly what the components that we want in a variety. I mean, at one point in time, HGI had over 9 million pounds of certified seed available, which would seed 300,000 acres, which is 3 times the amount that any time Canada's ever seeded. So to ramp up production is very easy for our Canadian farmers, Alberta farmers, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. If there's a variety that somebody wants out there, they want a lot of it, that's not a problem.
Bobby's had his hand.
Bobby, you're back.
Yeah, thanks. All of the factors that have been presented are, definitely important. But the one thing that is real is that government won't give funding unless you actually have equity yourself to match it with. And then when you're talking about, efficiencies and productivity, you need to focus on large scale. Whether that's building cars or whether it's building computers, you need to have the scale. Now, the thing is that lenders or financiers do not want to provide funds, especially for large scale opportunities, unless you can show them that you have offtake agreements in hand. Well, offtake agreements for the hemp industry, as I have found out over the last 2.5 years, are very hard to get in terms of value-added products, because they want to see the facility built first, and then they say they'll give you an offtake agreement. So it becomes really kind of a top-down, bottom-up equation that has to be figured out. Our technology is large scale. It's patented now. We've gotten patent approval from the United States so far and from China, of all places. But the reality is that when I go to people for financing, what they're looking at is, okay, where are your offtake agreements for your products? Now, because of the scale that we're talking about, we're able to talk about being a low-cost producer, high levels of productivity. We have developed and patented the world's first automated fiber quality control system. And all of that is very interesting and very meaningful, but not to financiers. What they want to see is, what are the products, who are going to buy them, and what's their commitment to you to ensure that when you've built the facility, that they will take what you have produced. So, it's easy to talk about the varieties, and it's easy to talk about, having enough, crop being grown. But at the same time, if you can't fulfill what the financiers are looking at, and without that money, you can't go to the government to get the topping up funds that you might need, or get BDC to give you some additional funds for your capex. So it really is much more than in my mind, a 2-dimensional problem. It becomes a 3-dimensional problem. I think, in fact, that we have to identify which products would best serve the market, which products we can produce at a cost-effective price, But I don't think that it's just a question of the varieties. I don't think it's just a question of having enough decortication. You know, as you get a number of smaller producers, you know, getting their output, they still have to go into the world if they're not with a value added focus and compete against one another, which simply is a race to the bottom. So this is, I think this is going to be something that we solve piece by piece. And I don't think that we're going to see it solved in short order. I do think that, you know, as other variables such as wood supply become a little bit better understood, and how prices are going to impact the competitive element against herd, we've got work to do. And it's not going to be solved just with a statement, and it's not going to be solved just with one piece of that puzzle having been dealt with. That's my opinion.
Excellent. Excellent. I think that was a good transition. Is there another, Aaron, another point?
No, sorry, I just forgot to lower my hand. My apologies.
No need for you to apologize. I'll be at that for a half hour. Okay. I think we are in a wrap up then. Any other hands going
No
once?
other hands.
Going twice? Okay, thank you. We're going to prepare a summary of today's discussion and meet once again before finalizing a presentation we expect to take forward to the government. That is on the table. That presentation, whether it's entitled At the Tipping Point, we're just going to have to see. But there's going to be a need in the next before our next meeting, to have some discussions about the role of AHA in all of this. And you can't swallow an elephant at one time. So you're going to need partners in this exercise. And you may even need to look at your organizational structure of having subcommittees to be able to wrestle with what needs to go forward. I think we'll be emphasizing your industry and its contribution it can make to Alberta in job creation. I'm going to spell out what we believe are the basic themes of government that we'll be looking for in this presentation. So that the hemp industry has the potential to make a significant contribution in job creation, in economic diversification, in agriculture, and even manufacturing, for rural Alberta in particular, and for the Indigenous population as well. It can also contribute to emissions reduction and carbon capture. We can be mitigating some of the downside of the energy transition through diversification, for example. So these are some of the broad themes we need to keep in mind when we're going to meet with government is what are they worried about? What are they concerned with as they are preparing as well for an election? So we will be emphasizing, of course, the fact that we've got major funding issues. We have got to decide that AHA is going to be adequately resourced in order to help guide the development of this industry. This is not going to be done bottom up. There is need for some guidance at a provincial level, particularly as we've heard on the marketing side of the guidance of research in order to move from innovation to commercialization and to get into the industrial scale as a contributor. So I think without further ado, Manny, you want to make any concluding comments?
Yeah, I was thinking if somebody didn't have a chance to speak today, or your thoughts come later after this roundtable, please email to us your input in any way to move this industry forward. Thank you.
Good luck, all of you. Thank you.